The most expensive decision of your life. You've been told that buying a house is the biggest financial decision you'll ever make. Wrong. You've been told that starting a business is the riskiest thing. And here's the part nobody tells you. That contract isn't even stable. The laws can change tomorrow. The alimony rules, the tax implications, the custody laws, all of it can be rewritten by politicians who don't know you, don't care about you, and sure as hell don't care if you lose everything. You don't get that kind of volatility in real estate. You don't get it in the stock market. But in marriage, you bet your future income on an agreement that can change while you're locked inside of it. Let's put numbers on this. In the US, the average divorce costs a man $100,000 to $200,000 once you add legal fees, asset division, alimony, and child support. That's not counting the opportunity cost, the promotions you didn't take, the businesses you didn't start, the investments you had to liquidate just to stay afloat. For some men, it's millions. That's not an exaggeration. Millions. I of the word of Christians, and the center from them, as hands cast the systems and pacing them to their heads. They're bad, but at least you know the house hedge. Blackjack takes maybe 1%, roulette 5%. The odds are printed right there on the felt. But in marriage, the house hedge isn't 5%, it's not 10%. The failure rate is 50 to 70% depending on how you measure it. And when you lose, you don't just lose chips. You lose your house, your retirement, maybe even your relationship with your kids. This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about math. And men are finally waking up to the reality that love may be priceless, but marriage has a price tag, and it's bigger than most of them can afford. So before we get into the 7 hidden financial risks most men ignore before marriage, understand this. Marriage isn't just about romance, it's the most expensive financial decision of your life. And if you don't treat it that way, if you don't look at it through the same cold, calculating lens you'd use for any other high-risk investment, you're not walking into a marriage. You're walking into a casino with everything you've ever built sitting on the table. The alimony time bomb. Here's a question most men never ask before getting married. What happens if this ends? Because the answer isn't just heartbreak. It isn't just moving out of the house or splitting furniture. For millions of men, the answer is something far worse, a financial leash called alimony. Now, on paper, alimony sounds noble. The idea is that the lower-earning spouse should not be left destitute after a divorce. That sounds fair, right? But here's the reality most men never see coming. Alimony isn't just a temporary bridge. For many men, it's a lifelong sentence. Imagine this. You marry in your 30s, you divorce in your 40s. The court decides you owe alimony. Not for 6 months, not for a year while she gets back on her feet. No, depending on the state, depending on the judge, depending on how long you were married, you could be writing that check every month for the next 20 or 30 years. You could be paying another grown adult, someone you no longer live with, someone you may not even like, more money than you spend on your own kids. And here's the kicker, there's no guarantee she'll ever need it. She could remarry, she could move in with someone else, she could even be making more money than you one day. But you're still on the hook until a judge decides otherwise. And don't think you can just opt out. This isn't Netflix. You can't cancel alimony because you lost your job, because your business tanked, because the economy crashed. Courts don't care. In fact, men have gone to jail for failing to pay alimony, even when they literally couldn't afford it. Think about that. You can serve time, not for committing a crime, but for failing to bankroll someone you divorced years ago. Let me give you an example that should terrify you. In states like California, permanent alimony is still on the books. Permanent. That means if your marriage lasted long enough, the judge can literally order you to pay your ex until one of you dies. Congratulations, you just signed up for a lifetime subscription plan to a person you don't even love anymore. And the worst part, most men don't find out until it's too late. Nobody mentions this when you're standing at the altar. Nobody explains it when you're picking out tuxedos. The lawyers don't tell you until you're already deep in the divorce process and staring at numbers that look like a second mortgage. This is the alimony time bomb. You don't see it when you're in love. You don't hear it ticking when you're planning the wedding. But once the marriage blows up, it detonates right under your bank account, and the blast radius lasts for decades. So when men today hesitate to get married, when they pause and calculate the risks, it's not because they're afraid of love. It's because they've seen what happens to their friends, their fathers, their co-workers. They've seen men forced to spend the prime years of their lives paying alimony like a tax on ever having been married. Mana Senging up are a child of. They imagine a judge looking at both parents, looking at the costs of raising kids, and then splitting it down the middle. Logical, right? Wrong. Child support isn't about what's fair, it's about what the state decides you owe, period. Here's how it works in reality. The court takes a formula, not your specific situation, not your sacrifices, not even your kid's actual expenses, just a cold formula. That formula spits out a number, and that number becomes your new monthly bill. And once it's set, good luck trying to change it. Lose your job? Too bad. The court doesn't care. Your income drops, but the payments stay the same until you drag yourself back to court and beg for a modification. That can take months, even years, while interest piles up like credit card debt. And yes, unpaid child support collects interest, sometimes at 10% or more per year. You're not just behind, you're buried. Now let's make it worse. What if she starts earning more money than you? What if she remarries a millionaire? Doesn't matter. The court won't revisit your payments just because her situation improved. You're still locked into that formula, still expected to pay the same, even if she doesn't need it. And here's the part nobody tells you. Child support isn't always about the kids. It's about the system. The government makes money on it. In the US, states actually get federal kickbacks based on how much child support they collect. Think about that. The state has a financial incentive to keep your payments high, to enforce them aggressively, and to treat you like a paycheck, not a parent. That's why you see stories of men working 2-3 jobs just to keep up. Not because they're deadbeats, not because they don't love their kids, but because the system doesn't care if the math doesn't add up. Miss a payment? Your driver's license can be suspended. Fall too far behind? They can garnish your wages, seize your tax refunds, even throw you in jail. That's not co-parenting. That's financial warfare. And here's the kicker. Even if you're an active dad, even if you see your kids every week, coach their soccer games, buy their clothes, the child support bill doesn't shrink. It doesn't matter how much time you spend, or what you directly contribute. The formula decides, and you pay. End of story. So when people ask why men hesitate about marriage and family today, here's the answer. It's not the kids they fear. Men love their children. It's the system. A system that can strip you of financial control, bleed you for decades and call it support, while your relationship with your kids becomes secondary to a monthly check. Child support sounds noble in theory. In practice, for many men, it's not about raising kids, it's about raising revenue. And once you're caught in that machine, control isn't in your hands anymore. That's why it's called child support beyond control. The debt you didn't create. Buying a house, starting a family, maybe even saving for retirement. What they don't picture is inheriting someone else's financial mess. Because here's the truth, when you get married, you don't just merge lives, you merge liabilities. Her debt can become your problem overnight. Let's break it down. She walks into the marriage with $80,000 in student loans. You didn't borrow a dime of it, but depending on your state, once you're married, those payments start affecting your household finances, your credit, your ability to buy a house, even your ability to get a loan for your own business. Or, Maybe she's carrying $20,000 in credit card debt. Designer bags, vacations, nights out. Before you met her, that was her responsibility. After you say I do, guess what? That debt is now attached to your household. If the marriage ends, you could be ordered to help pay it down, even if you never swiped a single card. It gets worse. Some states follow what's called community property law. That means any debt taken on during the marriage, no matter who racks it up, is considered equally yours. So if she decides to finance a new car in her name, take out a loan for a side hustle that fails, or max out cards while you're focused on work, you're on the hook for half of it. Half, even if you had no idea it was happening. And here's the kicker. Debt doesn't go away in divorce. People think, oh, we'll split assets and move on. Wrong. Courts don't just divide property. They divide obligations. Which means you can walk out of a marriage with nothing but bills that aren't even yours. Picture this. You grind for years, you're careful with money, you avoid stupid purchases. Then, after the split, you're stuck sending checks every month, not just for alimony or child support, but for her debts. The ones she created while you were out working 60 hours a week. It's like getting divorced from your wife, but staying married to her credit card company. And the system doesn't care how unfair that sounds. Judges don't ask whether you benefited from that debt. They don't ask if you even knew it existed. They just divide it, stamp it, and hand you the bill. So when men say marriage feels risky, this is one of the hidden reasons why. You're not just committing to a person, you're committing to every financial decision they've ever made, good or bad. And if those decisions were reckless, impulsive, or just plain irresponsible, you pay the price. That's the trap, not the love. Not the kids. The silent debts that sit in the background until it's too late. Marriage can make you responsible for the debt you didn't create, and for some men, that's the costliest line item of all, the lifestyle inflation trap. Here's something men don't see coming. Marriage doesn't just add love and companionship, it adds expenses. Big ones, and once you're locked in, those expenses almost never go down. It starts small, a nicer apartment to start your life together. Then maybe a bigger car, because we'll need space for the kids. Vacations that are no longer budget trips with your buddies, but family experiences, with flights, hotels, and Instagram-worthy dinners. This is called lifestyle inflation. And it's not just about what you want, it's about what's expected of you once you're married. Here's the trap. Before marriage, you might be fine living in a modest apartment, driving a paid-off car, stacking cash for investments. But once the ring is on her finger, the pressure kicks in. Friends and family expect the wedding, the housewarming, the baby shower, the anniversary trips. Society tells you that providing means constantly upgrading. And you? You're the one footing the bill. Now, multiply this by 10 years, 15 years. That steady climb in expenses doesn't stop. Every stage of marriage comes with new financial obligations, braces, private school, sports programs, bigger houses in better neighborhoods. And here's the scary part. Once your cost of living rises, it almost never comes back down. You're stuck on a treadmill where the speed keeps increasing, but you can't afford to stop running. And if the marriage ends, you don't get to reset your life back to the frugal bachelor version. Courts often base alimony and child support on the lifestyle established during the marriage. So all those vacations, that big house, those extras you thought were temporary, they become evidence of the ad standard of living you're now required to maintain for her, even after she's no longer your wife. That's the double hit most men never see. First, lifestyle inflation drains your ability to save and invest while you're married. Then, after the divorce, the inflated lifestyle becomes a weapon used against you in court. Suddenly, your obligation isn't based on what you can realistically afford, it's based on the inflated version of your life you were pressured into building. Let me give you a real-world example. A man making $120,000 a year, marries, buys the big house, sends the kids to private school, takes 2 family trips a year. divorce hiss. The court looks at the lifestyle and says, this is the standard of living, he can afford it. Boom. Child support and alimony set at levels that eat half his paycheck. He didn't realize that keeping up appearances during marriage was basically signing future checks he'd still be writing years after it ended. That's why lifestyle inflation is so dangerous. It's not just about spending more now. It's about locking yourself into a financial future you may not control later. Love doesn't require a Mac mansion or luxury vacations. But the marriage machine will push you in that direction, and once you're there, it's almost impossible to step back down. That's the trap. And too many men walk straight into it. The career sacrifice effect is a financial risk men almost never think about when they say I do. It's not alimony, it's not child support, it's not even debt. It's opportunity cost, the career moves you don't make because of marriage. See, men are told marriage is about stability, but stability comes with trade-offs that usually land on your shoulders. Imagine this, you're offered a promotion in another city, bigger paycheck, bigger career trajectory. But your wife doesn't want to leave her family, or her friends, or her job. So what happens? You say no. You sacrifice growth to keep the marriage stable. Or maybe even dreaming of starting a business. Risky, sure, but it could change your life. You bring it up, but she's nervous. She likes the steady paycheck, the benefits, the safety net. So you shelve the dream, and stick with the 9 to 5. Years later, you're still grinding in the same role, wondering what could have been. And here's the dangerous part. Nobody counts these sacrifices when the marriage ends. Courts don't say, oh, he turned down 2 promotions and a business venture to prioritize the relationship. Nope. All they see is your current income, and that current income becomes the baseline for child support, alimony, and asset division. So not only do you lose the upside of those career moves, you get penalized for playing it safe. The system doesn't care about the millions you could have made if you'd been free to pursue your ambitions. It just cares about the paycheck you're bringing home today. Now, let's talk about stress, because sacrificing career opportunities doesn't just cost money, it costs peace of mind. Men carry the financial weight of marriage like a backpack full of bricks. Every decision, job changes, relocations, investments, has to be filtered through, will this keep the family stable? And stability almost always means compromise. Compromise that slows down your trajectory while the years keep ticking by. Here's the irony. Women often benefit from this setup. If she wants to quit her job to focus on kids, you adjust your career to cover the gap. If she wants to move closer to family, you adjust your career to make it work. If she wants stability, you sacrifice growth. But if the marriage collapses, none of those sacrifices matter. You're judged on what you earn, not what you gave up. I've talked to men who lost entire decades this way. A guy who could have moved into executive leadership, but stayed mid-level because relocating would have disrupted the family. Another who sat on a startup idea worth millions because his wife couldn't handle the risk. After the divorce, both were still stuck at their modest salaries, now with alimony and child support cutting into them. That's the career sacrifice effect. The hidden cost of always putting family stability first while your personal growth stalls. Marriage doesn't just affect your finances today. It can rewrite your entire career path, and the bill for those lost years doesn't show up until it's too late. Legal fees, the divorce industry. Here's the part almost nobody talks about until it's too late. You think divorce is about heartbreak, arguments, custody battles. But the real predator in the room isn't your ex. It's the system designed to bleed you dry. Welcome to the divorce industry. Lawyers, judges, mediators, custody evaluators. It's a billion-dollar machine. And you're the fuel. Every hour your lawyer spends writing an email, every emergency court hearing, every back-and-forth negotiation, that's money out of your pocket. And let me be clear, divorce law is not about efficiency. It's about extraction. Lawyers don't get paid when you and your ex agree quickly. They get paid when you fight, when you argue, when you drag it out. The average contested divorce in America costs $15,000 to $30,000 per person. That's if things are normal. Throw in custody disputes, property division, or accusations, suddenly you're staring at six figures. Money you worked years to earn, gone in months. I've seen men spend more on divorce than they spent on their first home. Why? Because once the machine gets rolling, you're trapped. Your lawyer warns you not to back down. Her lawyer stokes the fire to justify more billable hours. The court system schedules hearings months apart, dragging things out while the clock keeps running. And here's the twisted part. Sometimes both lawyers are friends. They'll smile at each other in the hallway after spending hours fighting in court. Hours you just paid for. Think about that. The adversarial system isn't just about justice, it's about generating revenue. But it doesn't stop at lawyers. Custody evaluators, financial experts, mediators, all billed to you. Even something as simple as filing motions or requesting documents comes with fees. The system is designed to keep you paying until you're begging for it to end. And it's not just money, it's time. Time you're not working, time you're not building, time you're drained by stress, which means even more financial loss. Lost opportunities, lost focus, lost growth. Now let's do some quick math. Say you're a man earning $120,000 a year. After taxes, maybe $85,000. A drawn-out divorce costing $80,000? That's basically a year of your life. Gone. And that's before alimony, child support, or asset division. That's just the price of admission to the courtroom circus. Here's the kicker. Nobody cares about your pain. The system profits from it. Every delay, every motion, every fight over the king's coming, and the kings are getting. And the money is money. And the men who survive this machine, they all say the same thing. I had no idea how expensive divorce really is. But now you know. The divorce industry isn't about fairness, it's about profit. And when you step into that arena, you're not just fighting your ex, you're fighting an entire system that makes money every time you bleed.